Hello and welcome to the Level Up Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Harl. As Dr. John C. Maxwell says, everything rises and falls on leadership. I will be interviewing CEOs, executive team members, and other leaders that are respected in the marketplace so that you can learn from their real-life experiences. Our goal is to help you level up and, more importantly, raise your leadership lid with practical action items that will help you make an even greater impact on the people you lead and the organizations you steward. If you're looking to level up your influence, then this is the podcast for you. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy the show. All right, and today we are here with Dr. Tonya Crystal that I have so much respect for. This woman's highly accomplished. She is a Texas Aggie. You want to do your sound effect real quick?
Of course. Whoop!
Also completed her dental. It sure was. Also completed her dental training with Texas Health Science Center. And my gosh, you're a co-owner with your sister, Dr. Powell. Y'all run 4 locations for Lee Dental out of San Antonio, the greater San Antonio area for that matter. You're married. You have 2 kiddos. Are you busy?
A little busy. Lots of hats. Lots and lots of hats. But it's good. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I wouldn't trade it.
No, very, very cool. Well, I understand that you have a very special talent before we get started with the typical interview, and it's that you just seem to remember every lyric of every song. So I have to ask, what's your favorite song, and do you want to perform it for us?
Well, you know, I like lots of different genres of music, which is good, especially when you like to sing. I do not sing publicly. I typically sing in the car, all the places that you feel highly accomplished as an artist, like in your car, driving alone, annoying my children. I think, some of my favorite things to sing when I'm alone like that would probably be like every teenage girl, Taylor Swift. I like all of that. My fan favorite that I would pull out with friends would be Young MC and Bust a Move, because there's no good reason why I should still hold all those lyrics in my head, but for some reason they're still in there. So
some things are just meant to stay.
That's right.
And it's a great party performance for sure. So
it is. It's always kind of a surprising, useless skill, but I'm hoping someday, if I get the call from Jimmy Fallon for lip sync battle or something like that, I just want to be prepared, Chris.
Well, I'll just tag him in this podcast and hopefully
right. Let him know.
Call you up.
Let him know I'm here.
That's awesome. Well, I do want to give you an opportunity, Dr. Crystal, to tell us a little bit about Lee Dental and really your mission, because obviously there's a lot of dental offices, not just in San Antonio, but around the country. So tell us about it and some of the unique things that you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. So, Lee Dental Centers was started by my dad back in 1982. So surprisingly and kind of crazy enough, we're coming up on our 40th anniversary, which has been really exciting and something sweet we're looking forward to celebrating as a practice. It is interesting because I think there's a ton of great dentists out there. And I think that, dentistry as a whole kind of gets, we always seem to land on like the 60 minutes and the 20/20 specials, which is really disheartening. And I think it speaks a lot to why trust is really important in dentistry. I think a lot of the stuff that you see that makes people unsure or think that things are going to be sketchy, or I don't know what the word is, I think is based on a lot of trust. And I feel like that's a place where I've seen us really shine well, is that even though we are a bigger practice and we're busy and we've got a lot of providers and a lot of great doctors, we're still highly, highly relational with our patients. It's important to us to really know people well, because it influences everything, where you are with your care, what kind of timing is going to make sense for you, a lot of things like that. So it's certainly not just teeth. It's definitely people. And so I think a lot of people do that well. I think we do it really well. And so that's been a big, exciting thing to see there be some real consistency in that as a family business, that we haven't lost that personal touch. It's funny. Yesterday I was seeing a patient, and I was commenting about how my son is a senior in high school. And he said, Dr. Crystal, I saw you when you were pregnant with him. And I was in high school, and now he's in his 30s. And I, of course, you can either start weeping in a corner when that happens because you're going, how have I been doing this long enough that you were a teenager and now I have a teenager and I'm super confused. But at the same time, it was a beautiful expression of what we get to do as dentists. We see people frequently, and for a long time, and a lot of times generationally, parents and then their kids who come in to see us. And so that piece really weaves into how we can perform care well for people. So that's been fun. We get examples of that every day, and that's a big
That's
blessing.
awesome.
Yeah,
Well, I
it's a
know
big.
you're all about innovation, and businesses
Yeah,
that don't change struggle, right?
yeah.
As the market changes, the demands, and I know you launched something that is unique to the market and is licensed. Why don't you share a little bit about Dental Passport? I think that's something that everybody in this audience would love to learn about because of the trust that
Yes.
you create with your clients, right? And your patients.
Right, right. No, I appreciate that. And yeah, it's interesting. We've for a long time struggled with patients who don't have insurance, don't have a good way to access dental care, who become more emergency only based patients, right? And so you come in when something's hurting, you come in when something's painful, which typically means that what you're coming in for is going to be costly, so that's a terrible way to have to enter into a relationship, right? Is to come in the deep end of something. And often they're scared, they're nervous because they're in pain. And we thought, gosh, I wish there was a way that we could help these patients catch problems earlier, be more routine with care without it breaking the bank, all of those types of things. So as a dental provider, we thought we need to have a plan for patients where they can come in and get done what they need, and it's not complicated and expensive like traditional dental insurance. It's just more of a discount plan. And a lot of practices will offer a membership plan, things like that, and we could have just done it kind of under the radar at that point, but we decided to fully license it with the Texas Department of Insurance because we also saw, as business owners, it's really hard to provide great benefits for your employees. And
Mm-hmm.
so we thought, wow, what if this could be something that is a great solution for patients, that's also a really great solution for small business owners who, dental insurance is the redheaded stepchild of benefits, right? By the time you've spent all this money trying to lock down retirement and health insurance and the big ones that you want to get, a lot of times dental just gets either left off completely or neglected. And so a lot of those employees just don't have a good resource, or they go into the private insurance market and it's a hot mess. So we're excited about launching that phase because we've been utilizing Dental Passport as a benefit. We have thousands of patients who have taken advantage of it since 2015, and we really haven't gotten into that market of small businesses where groups of people would have access to it. And so I think it could be a really great, especially nowadays, where it's so hard to compete for talent. Um, and so to have a really comprehensive package of things that you're offering that might be unique to someone else is a great thing for everybody.
I love that. I think that's fantastic. And like you said, I know for small business owners, that is a major, major concern. And providing something that bridges the gap like that, that's fantastic. And that kind of leads to my next question. If you think about this journey you've been on, right, that probably wasn't something that was going to be launched 20 years ago, right?
No.
And you're now in the second generation of ownership with you and your sister. And I know that for most companies, it doesn't work in the second generation. It doesn't make it to the third generation. It's like
Yeah.
one in a gazillion, right? So,
Right.
um, you know, what could you share about that kind of journey, that transition? Maybe it's just the fear that you were stepping into of, okay, now I legit, figuratively hold the keys.
Right.
Um, but,
Right.
but what kind of fears did you face and how did you press through it?
Well, it's interesting. Some of the people that work for us right now, even are people that when I was in high school, I was picking up lunch for them, so to be in a family business where you've gone from, she used to be the high school lunch runner to now she's the dentist owner of the practice, and I'm still in that mix. That's an interesting balance to walk. Uh, I feel like I definitely I was definitely really measured about how I did that when I came in. I certainly didn't come in right out of dental school running around like I owned the place, even though I owned the place. And I think that that was an important step. Obviously, I had a lot of trust and relationship with the people that worked with us at that time, but I wanted to give it, uh, I wanted to give it time to be organic, if that makes sense. I think there's a lot of leaders who count on, and we talk about this a lot in our practice, with our doctors and with everybody else. You know, you can lean a lot on positional leadership, that because I'm the doctor or because I'm the fill in the blank, that everyone should do what I say or want to follow me, and that's just not the case. And we find that it's much more successful when people organically are drawn to follow you because you lead by example, you show that you're in the mix with everyone. And so there was a lot of years that I spent, probably not exercising my full authority in that way, but I think I did it intentionally, because I wanted to make sure that they understood that it wasn't just a positional thing. That makes sense. You know, that it was
Yeah.
something where they wanted to listen to me because they thought I might have the right answer, or that they've seen that I care, or those types of things were really important. So I think that transition for us with family business was key. You know, of course, my sister and I, you know, we are the rarity, and we just really get along really well. We are both, for better or worse, really conflict averse people, you know, the Enneagram stuff. And so we joke that we're both like peacekeepers. And so all of a sudden we thought, well, of course it makes total sense that, like, why would we ever fight? It doesn't mean we don't disagree. It's just we disagree in a way that's not, you know, confrontational.
Mm-hmm.
It's solution oriented, and you know, it's where we can find a common path together. So that's been a huge blessing, because we really don't have a lot of that what I would say, I would assume, is more typical, you know, the words that go unsaid, or all the under the currents or things like that. We just really don't have that with us. And so that's been a blessing for sure.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
I was sharing with you
Lucky
earlier
me,
about
right?
how,
I know.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
for
beautiful
sure.
thing, right? That
Yeah.
y'all are able to lead and live that way inside of your practice. You know, I
Yeah.
told you earlier about my passion for John Maxwell's teaching on leadership, and you're living it out, right?
Yeah.
Leadership is influence, and one of his books, The 360-Degree Leader, was one of my favorites because he talked
Mhm.
about how you have to lead before you're the leader for people to be drawn to you, and you did
Right.
it, and
Right.
that's so great that it happened organically. I know that's a big weight off your shoulders as people start to respect you as that leader, right?
Right. 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 Where it's not forced.
Yep. Well, there is not just one of you, but there are two of you at the top, and people
Yes.
often say it's lonely at the top. So where do you turn to for wisdom, guidance, counsel, that kind of thing? I mean, I'm sure some of that comes from her. Is there anybody else as well?
Yeah, definitely. You know, having each other, you know, has been a huge help. Of course, having my dad, my mom's involved in the practice as well. You know, it really is a family business. So there's a lot of people where, when it comes to, you know, everyone has this. I feel like it's hilarious when you talk to people about business. It doesn't matter what sector you're in. It's always, um, people, right? People management, and how do we handle this? And so just having some really sound wisdom around us, has been huge. I've been part of C12, which is a big peer advisory group, a Christian-based CEO group, and that's been a huge asset to me, because it's interesting. You know, you're always drawn to people that are in your same industry. And yes, dentistry has a lot of different business courses and things like that, but I have found it to be tremendously valuable to get outside of my industry, um, and hear from people in different sectors, because you realize that there's a ton of commonality, but I find you also hear a lot of creative ways that things are being done in other places, where we just try to attack things the same way. You know, it's like dentistry, well, this is what you do. We're all reading the same magazines, we're all doing the same stuff. And it's been fun to hear different ways of doing things from different peers. So that's been a big one too. And of course, like every leader, I've got 15 books I'm reading at the same time, and I forget what author has written which one. And, you know, so that definitely, you can kind of get overwhelmed with good information too as a leader, which is a catch sometimes.
For sure. Well, and I love doing these podcasts because I'm getting nuggets from every leader that I talk to of their favorite book, right? Because, like you said,
Yeah,
there's a sea of it for days and days and days,
there is.
and you gotta go through it, and maybe you're 10 pages into it, and you're like, oh, I've read all this before. Let's do something
I
different,
know.
right?
I
So,
know. Yeah, one of my favorites that I read um, in the last year, and what's funny is I didn't read it for dentistry. I actually read it as part of a school board, like a book that we were all reading together. But again, everyone is facing the same stuff, right? As people, and so it was a book called Radical Candor by
mm,
Kim Scott, and so it just was good about having, because that's probably been one of the hardest things as a leader for me, because I am not confrontational, is that sometimes you really have to have the hard conversations, and they're important, and they don't have to be ugly and they don't have to be mean, but sometimes they're uncomfortable. And so getting comfortable having uncomfortable conversations throughout my career is something I've had to grow in a lot, because we all want to be liked. My I have a, if you could see my bulletin board, I have a thing that someone printed out from Michael Scott, and it says, would I rather be feared or loved? And it says easy. I want people to be afraid of how much they love me. And that was my I said that's my leadership quote, my terrible leadership quote, but it's a dangerous place to get stuck. Sometimes you want to be loved so much, but sometimes you need to be honest,
mhm.
and honesty can be really the kinder thing to do, than just ignoring things and pretending that everything's okay sometimes. And so that book has been a great reminder of that. Like, have the uncomfortable conversation because you'll be grateful that you did, and it's the right thing for other people too. So
Such an amazing topic.
yeah,
I learned in my early years coming up in business that tough love is still love.
I
You know,
know. Yeah,
you got
yeah,
there's some things you just have to hear,
I
and
know.
I'm grateful for it. Right, like some of the greatest lessons I ever learned was my hardest basketball coach moving through middle school or high school. Right,
Right.
and it was the hard conversations.
Yeah,
So
you always
I'm
have those
excited to
people
read it.
that kind of pushed and challenged you in those ways. And I think it's a great skill to develop if you can learn how to have conversations that way, in a way that honors the person you're talking to. It's not demeaning or condescending, but just to be able to be kind and gracious, but also be honest, I think helps people move forward better. So that hasn't been easy, but it's been good.
For sure. No, that's great. I
Yeah.
love that you brought that topic up. And all of these nuggets and notes will also be in the show notes along with the book.
Mhm.
Because I know people are going to want to grab that and read it. And I want to make sure that I don't forget it as well. Right.
Yeah,
So,
it's a good one.
well, Dr. Crystal, what about your greatest learning experience on your journey? It could have been a tough one, could have been a huge win, and it validated the things that you were doing. So for you, what was your greatest learning experience thus far in this long journey that you've been on?
Yeah, it's interesting. I would share maybe a couple of things if I can. So before I joined C12, and this was, years ago, my kids were younger, and I'd been running the business with my sister for years, but I was thinking I need to go back. I feel like I need to go get an executive MBA. I'm going to do that. Started researching programs, and well, I could do this, and I could work, and I could go to school at night. To which my husband was like, "Are you out of your mind?" Like, and for two reasons. One, which was, "Are you out of your mind? Like, what are we going to do this?" But the other was, really, he was like, "Tonya, you don't need that," you know um, which which was kind and sweet, but also made me go, maybe, yeah, maybe I don't need that. I think sometimes we get stuck and go, well, I don't know enough about this, or I don't know enough about that, um, and that's not to say that the quest for information isn't healthy, but I think sometimes we discount what we're actually doing and accomplishing real time, real life, every single day. And we want to give it some big formula. And we think we might need some letters to go behind our name to help us with that. But so that was a big thing for me to go, I don't need it. I do need good peer advisory, and um, I need good mentors, and I need wisdom, and I need people to lean into, but I didn't necessarily need all of that. Right. And so that for me was a good lesson. And, in the last couple of years, just navigating, I mean, it's almost comical if I were to, and I have it listed out in my journal, just the madness that we've been through in the last 2 years. But even before COVID, um, we've had two cyber attacks, ransomware attacks. We've had, we had COVID, which was, and it has been an adventure on its own, and the ride continues. We've had the winter storm, and we had two offices that completely flooded out with burst pipes, and we had to navigate that earlier this year. And so it's been this, like, when I look at it and it's collective, I go, what in the world have we weathered and survived? And I think business owners everywhere feel that. Like, it's just been a nonstop roller coaster of stuff. And I feel like there's a lot of valuable things that have come out of that. I feel like for a lot of businesses, COVID either brought a ton of chaos or it brought a ton of clarity. And for us, it really helped clarify a lot of things for us, like who we are, what we do. Of course, we were in an industry that people were terrified to go back, and our employees were terrified to come back. We had to do a lot of education and protection and a lot of new, and every time this protocol changes, our protocol changes. And I mean, it was, so learning how to be agile has been a tremendous skill set for us lately. And I think, in a generational business where you've had years and years of just getting settled into this rhythm of, well, this is how we do this. We do A and then B and then C. And then all of a sudden it's like B doesn't exist anymore. So now what do you do? So I think that learning how to let go of some things that were sacred cows, how to let go of some stuff that you go, why were we doing it this way? When everything's kind of up in the air, it allowed us a lot of time to really reassess how we wanted to look moving forward. And so it's been a really clarifying couple of years. So I think from that standpoint, if I could give COVID a silver lining, which it's a real thin one, it would be that it's really clarified some stuff for us as a business.
Well, you have been through the ringer for sure. I knew about some of that story, but my gosh, the journey is never dull, obviously. In your industry, your business, there's no doubt there's the fear of going to the dentist for the kids, and just the sheer nature of all that, and then you compound it with cyber attacks and COVID and the mysterious winter freeze and flooded offices, and you continue to overcome. But I'm a firm believer that one storm prepares you for the next, right? And the next one prepares you for the one after that. And you all have clearly weathered that well and have such a great reputation. So good for you in being agile and adapting and having the plan after the plan after the plan, right?
I know. The contingency for the contingency. And you just learn to make plans and then hold them loosely, a little bit, to go, okay, this is what I think is going to happen and how we think we'll proceed. And then being able to have the freedom and flexibility to go, okay, so it's not looking like that, so let's do something different. And really throughout all of that, I think one of the big things for us was just communicating really, really well with our teams. Even when we were closed down during COVID completely, we had weekly Zoom calls, and that was back when people loved Zoom because it was fun. That was before Zoom became the burden of life, right? But but back then, and it was huge. Everybody was at home. In some ways, it was kind of this sweet way for everybody to see each other, because we have 50 employees. So to have everybody where you're getting to see them in their home environment a little bit was a little bit kind of humanizing for everyone. People that you're used to just seeing at work in the same way. Now we got to kind of peek into everyone's lives, and it just, in ways that it could have really driven everybody apart and everyone was really scared, us staying connected with the teams really helped us get through that time and feel ready to come back to work when we were able to come back to work. So that was big. I applaud our teams for it. That's for sure.
Yeah, you absolutely should. I mean, the communication, I think, was the barrier for every organization. If you did it, you got through it. If you didn't, the trust, the respect for your leadership, it just went out the window. And that's why there's so many people hopping jobs now, because they didn't trust in the leadership because it went into a black hole. So
Yeah, we heard a lot of that from people who, who even people that we picked up along the way in terms of employees and stuff. It was a lot of, I just wasn't sure. Everybody was unsure. I wasn't sure if I was going to have my job when I came back. I wasn't sure what it looked like. And so, in the absence of information, people will start to make up their own narrative, and we didn't want that for our teams. We wanted them to know, even if we didn't know what was going on, we would get on a call every week and go, "Hi, we don't know what's going on," but trust that we're trying and we're researching and we're. So I think just even knowing that we were working on stuff and preparing, and here's how we're going to be getting PPE, here's how we're going to be doing all of the things. So if they knew that we were active in that, it's like they could take a deep breath and know that they didn't have to be as nervous about stuff when they came back. So absolutely. Yeah. Communication is always and over communicating, but we do that. We like to do that too.
Yep. So good. So good. Thanks for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you've been through some challenges. You've been through some highs and lows, all this kind of things. You understand that this podcast is meant for emerging leaders.
Yeah.
To help to shorten the gap, right? Because we can read all the books, we can go through the classes, but experiences are what I firmly believe help people to level up and go to that next level. And really, it's not just for them, it's for the people they lead, right? To develop those people into future leaders or whatever those people's career goals are. But if you were to go back with all this new wisdom that you have, that you've gained over the years, and talk to Dr. Tonya Crystal 20 years ago, what would you tell her?
Don't be so worried about what you do and that it's going to make or break everything. I think that early on, I put a lot of pressure on myself to be the linchpin of every important decision and everything that had to be made. And if I messed it up, then everything would be messed up. And I did it great, then everyone would be happy. And I think, ironically, I think when, like I mentioned earlier, and I'm not saying an MBA is not great for some people because I think it's really valuable. For me, I feel like an MBA would have given me a lot more information, but it still would have put me in the middle of decisions. I think it would have still kept me feeling too self-important in the big scheme of things happening within the business. And I think that the leadership guidance that I've gotten beyond that realm has been more that what I get to do is a gift, especially in my situation coming into a family business that I've certainly grown and sustained, but didn't create on my own. And so I know that sometimes early on, I would look at that and go, this is a burden. This is a lot. I didn't sign up for all of this. This is a lot of people. This is a lot of responsibility. I don't know if I'm equipped. And to be able to shift gears in that and go, Lord, look what you've put in front of me. And you designed me in a way, and I'm not sure why, that this is in front of me and my sister. And what do you want me to do with it? And what do you want me to do with these 50 people that work for us and these doctors that work for us and the patients that trust us? And, so the trickle down of that and feeling kind of gifted to do those things versus forced or burdened by it was a big transition that I wish I could have relaxed into earlier. So as it's a joke in dentistry that as soon as we tell you to relax, you tense up, right? So it's hard to say, hey, young leader, just learn how to relax. It's like, it's the opposite. Now I'm even more tense. I don't know how to relax, it's the same thing in dentistry. We just don't even talk about it. Don't talk about it. And then maybe they'll relax. And I think just overthinking things too. We joke about the books and the reading. And I think, one year I really had to tell myself, I'm going to go to a one-on-one ratio. I will read one nonfiction book and then I have to read something fictional, because every nonfiction fantastic business book I read, I was like, here's 10 new things I need to change tomorrow. And it just kind of stacked on pressure. So I think finding things, understanding what makes sense for you right now in your business, and understanding what might be great information you're going to tap into in 5 years, and not feeling pressure to go, I need to wake up tomorrow and implement these 10-point system and this feedback loop, and I need to meet with everyone once a week. And you could kill yourself trying to do all of that. And so picking your battles, taking it slow. I think that would be another thing too. I think you can get kind of overwhelmed with information. You got to kind of be able to funnel it out. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all great, and I love a lot of what you said. But one thing that really stood out is the one thing, right?
Yeah.
What's the one thing that I, as the leader, can change, have the ability to change, and can take action on? And then there's always another thing. But what is the one thing that can make a monumental move, right? Because you got a great team of people around you.
Yeah.
The burden doesn't just fall on you, right?
Absolutely.
And you've definitely gotten to see that over the years, how you can lean on other people, right? So.
Yeah. And be able to amplify what you do as a company. When you are, as a lot of leaders are, I think leaders either fall into the super creative, I don't like to mess with the details type, or you're the leader because you're like the super type A, I love all the details type. And I feel like that type of leader can get really locked up well, this will just be better if I can just do it myself, because I will never, ever, ever find someone who will do it the way that I want it done. And so, but then you're exhausted and your people don't feel like you trust them. And so I think learning to let go of appropriate things. I feel like it was after a global leadership summit one year, and I forget the speaker who talked about it, but he said something about looking at the pipeline of things that come through you and saying, I can do this, but should I be doing this? Because as the owner or a leader, you probably can do just about everything. There's a reason that you got to the top of the food chain, because you're good at the stuff and you figured it out and you know it start to finish and top to bottom. And so there's a lot of times now where I go, well, sure, I can do that, but should I do that? And am I the right person to be doing that? Or am I robbing somebody else of the joy of an accomplishment and a win and an experience? And so that's been a great filter for me as well, is I can, but should I? So that's good too.
That's the definition of a great leader. All the things that you just talked about,
Yeah.
empowering people and giving them the opportunity to fulfill their goals and their gifts and their talents, right? So that's awesome.
Yep.
Well, I was going to ask you if you had a final thought, but you gave so many good final thoughts in there already. I don't know if you have anything left to share at this point, but if you had one final thought for those emerging leaders out there, you say, I do not want to end this podcast without sharing this one thing, what would it be?
I think that I see, and I will speak I'm going to speak through the lens of dentistry, because it's the industry I'm in, but I think it probably translates to a lot of industries right now. I see a lot in the younger dentists coming out, younger generations coming out. I just think a lot of fear to take risks and to step out on their own, or to do the thing. I think we have become a people that really crave a lot of comfort and predictability. And sometimes we do that at the expense of going our own way or doing the thing that we're uniquely designed to do. You can get comfortable working for someone else and complacent in that, when really you want to be doing your own thing or leading your own deal. And so I say that works okay for us, because we get great dentists who don't want to run a practice, right? Not everybody wants to own a business, and I get that, and we try to make sure we have a great environment for them to really do what they do well with us. But I do see that kind of that hesitation a little bit, and I don't know if that's new. I just feel like my dad's generation came out, they were all ready to start a small business, they were all fired up to go. And I've told my dad before, I'm like, am I just a whiner, or is it really harder to run a business now? Am I being dramatic? And my mom will attest. She's like, I mean, you didn't have to worry about all this stuff before. We didn't have to have an IT department, and we didn't have to have social media updates, and we didn't have to maintain this rat race of relevancy, right? You just did what you did, and people came in. If something didn't go great, you didn't have to worry that, you were going to get splattered across Yelp or something else. I mean, so there's so much pressure now on business owners to be perfect all the time, right? You're just being scrutinized. And so I just would say, to not be scared, to lean into people around you, to surround yourself with people who are bold and courageous in branching out and doing stuff, and having a good support network, so that when you do it, that you've got good people by your side when you do it. Don't be scared.
Fantastic. That is one heck of a way to wrap things up today. I appreciate all the nuggets you shared. Again, I'm going to have so many of those nuggets in the show notes and your book recommendation, and just so grateful for you. I love what you're doing with your team. They're so blessed to have you. We'll be praying for you and Dr. Powell and just the entire team, because you all have great things ahead of you, and it's just so exciting to watch great people do great things.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Chris.
My pleasure. We'll talk to you soon.